That soup you made this morning, the one that felt warm, comforting, and healthy, may be quietly doing damage your kidneys cannot undo. And the frustrating part, most people over 60 have no idea. Because the soups causing the most harm are not the ones that look unhealthy. They are the ones that look like the right choice. I'm Grace Wells, kidney and diabetes health educator for older adults. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 specific soups and broths that millions of seniors eat every single week, believing they are doing something good for their bodies, while those foods are silently pushing phosphorus levels higher and higher. Phosphorus is not something most people think about. It does not come up at the dinner table. It rarely comes up until a doctor says your kidneys are struggling. But by that point, the damage has already been building, quietly, meal after meal, bowl after bowl. Stay with me through this entire video, because the 5th one on this list is the one that surprises people the most. And it is probably the one sitting in your kitchen right now. Let's start with what phosphorus actually does, because once you understand this, the rest of the video will make complete sense. Your kidneys have one very specific job when it comes to phosphorus. They filter it out of your blood and send it out through urine. When your kidneys are working well, this happens automatically. You eat something with phosphorus, your kidneys clear it, and your blood levels stay balanced. But here is where it gets complicated for many seniors. Kidney function naturally declines with age, not dramatically, not all at once, but quietly over years. And when kidney filtration slows down, phosphorus does not leave the body as efficiently. It starts to build up in the blood instead. When blood phosphorus stays elevated for too long, your body does something that sounds almost impossible. It begins pulling calcium out of your bones, trying to balance the ratio between the two minerals. This weakens bones, it stiffens blood vessels, it strains the heart, and it accelerates kidney decline in a cycle that becomes harder to stop the longer it goes unaddressed. This is not a rare condition. This is one of the most common and least discussed nutritional dangers for people over 60 with any degree of kidney impairment. And phosphorus is everywhere. But it is not equally visible in every food. Some sources are obvious, others are hidden in foods that genuinely seem like the healthiest choice on your table. That is what today is about. The first soup on this list is one that has been featured in nearly every senior health article written in the past 10 years as a superfood for aging adults. Bone broth. Bone broth has been marketed as the ultimate healing food. People make it at home, buy it at premium prices in grocery stores, and drink it every morning thinking they are doing something restorative for their joints, their gut, and their overall health. And here is the truth. Bone broth does contain collagen, gelatin, and certain amino acids that can support joint health. That part is real. But what those articles do not tell you, what almost nobody talks about, is what happens to phosphorus when you simmer bones for 8, 12, or 24 hours. Bones are one of the densest phosphorus-containing structures in the body. As they cook, phosphorus leaches directly into the broth. The longer the simmer, the higher the phosphorus concentration in the liquid. By the time you pour that cup of bone broth, you may be drinking a concentrated phosphorus load in a liquid that is absorbed rapidly because there is almost no fiber to slow it down. For someone with healthy kidney function, this is manageable. For someone over 60 with even mild kidney decline, which lab results often reveal before any symptoms appear, this can be a significant daily burden. This does not mean you can never have broth. But if your doctor has mentioned watching your phosphorus, or if your kidney function numbers have started to shift, bone broth is something worth discussing before it becomes a daily habit. A safer option for most people is a simple vegetable-based broth made from carrots, celery, onion, and fresh herbs. It still gives you that warm, comforting flavor, without the concentrated mineral load from bones. Some people also find that a lighter chicken broth, made with meat rather than marrow bones and simmered for a shorter time, is a gentler alternative. But always check with your dietitian based on your specific lab values. The second soup is one that most people associate with sick days and recovery. And that association is part of why it feels so safe. Canned chicken noodle soup. When you feel unwell, or when the weather turns cold, or when you just need something easy, canned chicken noodle soup is often the first thing that comes to mind. It is convenient. It is familiar. It has been in kitchens for generations. But here is what is happening inside that can. Commercial canned soups use phosphate additives, not just the natural phosphorus that occurs in chicken and vegetables, but added phosphate compounds used to extend shelf life, improve texture, and enhance flavor. Disodium phosphate. Sodium phosphate. These additives are not the same as naturally occurring phosphorus in whole foods. Here is why that matters so much. Natural phosphorus, the kind found in whole grains or fresh vegetables, is bound to other compounds. Your body absorbs roughly 40 to 60% of it, but phosphate additives, the kind listed in ingredients as sodium phosphate or similar, are absorbed at rates closer to 90 to 100%. Almost all of it goes directly into your bloodstream, so you are not just getting phosphorus from the chicken in that soup. You are getting a highly bioavailable phosphorus hit from the additives used in processing. And then there is the sodium, another concern for anyone managing blood pressure or kidney health. A better option when you want something quick and warm is a simple homemade chicken vegetable soup with fresh or frozen vegetables, a small amount of plain chicken breast, and low sodium seasoning. If you need a canned option, look for soups with shorter ingredient lists and no phosphate additives. Read the ingredients, not just the nutrition label, because phosphate additives are not always reflected in the phosphorus number on the panel. If that surprised you, the next one may surprise you even more. The third soup on this list is one that is almost universally seen as the healthiest choice in any soup aisle. People choose it specifically because it sounds like the right thing to eat. Lentil soup. Lentils are protein-rich, fiber-rich, and loaded with nutrients. They are a staple in heart-healthy diets and recommended widely for managing blood sugar. For many older adults, lentil soup feels like one of the most responsible food choices they can make. And for someone with healthy kidney function, it largely is. But here is the part that does not get talked about enough. Lentils are high in both phosphorus and potassium, and they are high in plant-based protein, which in larger amounts can increase the filtration workload on kidneys that are already working harder than they should be. For someone with reduced kidney function, a large bowl of lentil soup several times a week is not a light meal. It is a significant mineral load, especially if that person is also eating other high potassium or high phosphorus foods throughout the day. This does not mean lentils are off the table. For many seniors, they remain a valuable food, but portion size matters, frequency matters, and the rest of what you eat that day matters. If you have been told your potassium or phosphorus levels are running high, or if your kidney function numbers have shifted, a large daily bowl of lentil soup is worth bringing up with your nephrologist or registered dietitian before continuing as a regular habit. A lower phosphorus alternative that still gives you warmth and substance is a vegetable soup built around zucchini, green beans, cabbage, or cauliflower. Vegetables that tend to be gentler on kidneys for most people. But individual lab results vary, so what works for one person may not be right for another. Now we are at number 4, and this one sits in an interesting space because it genuinely can be a good option. The problem is not the soup itself, the problem is how it is being made. Mushroom soup. Mushrooms have real nutritional value. They are low in calories, contain certain beneficial compounds, and have been widely praised in health circles. Mushroom soup, especially homemade, sounds like exactly the kind of thing a health-conscious senior should be eating. But mushrooms, particularly dried mushrooms, mushroom concentrates, and mushroom powders used in soups and broths, are actually quite high in phosphorus. Fresh mushrooms in moderate amounts are generally manageable for most people. But the concentrated forms, mushroom-based broth powders, dried porcini added to soups, mushroom soup made with cream or processed cheese-style blends, can deliver a meaningful phosphorus load in a single serving. And here is the additional layer. Cream-based mushroom soups, whether made at home with heavy cream or prepared from a can, often contain dairy, which adds another phosphorus source on top of the mushrooms themselves. Dairy is not inherently off-limits for kidney health, but it is a notable phosphorus source, and stacking it with a mushroom base in one bowl adds up faster than most people realize. If you enjoy mushroom-based soups, a lighter approach using fresh mushrooms in a vegetable broth base with no heavy dairy additions is generally a more kidney-friendly option. Keeping portions moderate and not using dried or powdered mushroom concentrates is another simple step that makes a real difference. We are almost at the fifth one, and I want you to really pay attention here, because this is the one that generates the most disbelief when I explain it in person. But first, if anything in this video has made you look at your weekly soup routine differently, that is exactly the reaction these videos are designed to create. Your comment below may help another senior realize they have been making the same quiet mistake without knowing it. The fifth soup on this list is a classic. It is comforting. It is associated with warmth, family, and tradition. And it is often specifically recommended for seniors who need something easy to digest. Tomato soup. Here is why tomato soup lands on this list. Tomatoes are naturally high in potassium. They are also moderately high in phosphorus. And tomato soup, particularly canned or condensed tomato soup, is made from concentrated tomatoes, meaning you are getting the phosphorus and potassium from a much larger quantity of tomatoes than you would ever eat whole in a single sitting. Then come the additives. Commercial tomato soups frequently contain added phosphates for texture and preservation. Many cream of tomato varieties also contain dairy, adding another phosphorus source. And the sodium levels in most canned tomato soups are significant. For someone with well-functioning kidneys, a bowl of tomato soup is unlikely to cause a problem. But for someone over 60 with early to moderate kidney impairment, or someone whose doctor has flagged potassium as something to watch, tomato soup consumed regularly is not a neutral food. It is quietly working against the kidneys with each bowl. This surprises people the most because tomatoes are so strongly associated with heart health and antioxidants, and that connection is real. But what is good for one system in the body is not always equally gentle on another. And for kidneys managing a higher phosphorus and potassium load, tomato concentration is something worth knowing about. A gentler alternative is a soup built around lower potassium vegetables, cabbage-based soups, zucchini and herb soups, or a simple leek and potato soup in moderate quantities. These tend to give you that same comfort and warmth without the same mineral concentration. Always check with your healthcare team based on your specific labs before making significant dietary changes. Let's step back for a moment and look at what connects all 5 of these soups. None of them look dangerous. None of them are junk food. Every single one of them has a legitimate reputation as a health-forward food choice in some context. That is precisely what makes this so important to understand. The problem with phosphorus is not that it shows up in obviously unhealthy foods. It shows up in the foods that people over 60 are most likely to choose because those foods feel responsible. Bone broth because it supports joints. Canned chicken soup because it is easy and familiar. Lentil soup because it is nutritious. Mushroom soup because it sounds sophisticated and healthy. Tomato soup because it is light and associated with good nutrition. And week after week, bowl after bowl, those invisible phosphorus loads accumulate. Not dramatically, not in a way that causes immediate symptoms, but steadily. And by the time lab values reflect the burden, The kidneys have been working harder than they should have for a long time. This is not about fear. This is about paying attention before symptoms appear, because that is where the real opportunity is. Here is what you can do starting this week. First, pull out any canned or packaged soups you currently have in your kitchen and read the ingredient list, not just the nutrition label. The ingredient list, look for any form of the word phosphate: disodium phosphate, sodium phosphate, calcium phosphate. If you see it, that product has added phosphates with near complete absorption. That is worth knowing. Second, if your doctor or kidney specialist has mentioned your phosphorus or potassium levels, bring up your soup and broth habits at your next appointment. Not just what medications you take or what meals you eat at dinner. Specifically, ask whether your current soup routine is appropriate for where your kidney function is right now. These are small steps, but they are the kind of small steps that, taken consistently over months, reduce strain on kidneys that are already working hard. One gentle reminder before we close: everything in this video is educational. Your individual needs depend on your kidney function stage, your lab values, your medications, and your full diet. And those are things only your healthcare team can evaluate for you. Please do not make major dietary changes based on any single video. Use this as a starting point for a better conversation with your doctor or registered dietitian. Before you go, I want to ask you something directly. Which of these 5 soups surprised you the most? Was it the bone broth, the lentil soup, or was it the tomato soup at the end? Leave it in the comments. Because your answer may be exactly what another senior over 60 needs to see to take this seriously for the first time. And if this is the kind of clear, honest kidney health guidance you wish someone had given you earlier, without the medical jargon, without the panic, just the real information you need to protect yourself, then this channel is here for you every week. You do not have to navigate this alone.